That music gets me. I love that song.
I'm rocking out.
Rocking that song. What's going on, people? The Lions Den podcast with Mukai Moromo. Today I'm sitting down with Franczek, great friend of mine, one of my mentors, and definitely someone who I always get some really phenomenal advice from. How you doing, Ken?
I couldn't be better. I'm hanging out with you today. I feel good.
Yes.
I feel good. I'm warmed up. I'm warmed up.
I like it, man.
Yeah.
So this Lions Den podcast is something I started in order to kind of introduce people to some of the great people I've kind of come across in my life, and you're definitely one of them, because I find there's a shortage of people who, in my opinion anyway, if you care about my opinion, I think.
I care about your opinion.
Thank you, Kenny.
Yeah.
That's why you're a good dude. But I think there's a shortage of people who just shoot straight and are willing to have an open-ended discussion and talk about things openly without judgment in order to get to like a competent resolution. You know what I mean? To say I may come in the room thinking this thing is right after having a conversation with somebody who's able to articulate their thoughts and ideas effectively. You can actually think about what your stance is on certain things and maybe come up with something different, or at the very least understand why other people think that way, and not have a more a one-sided view of things anymore.
Yeah.
And you're one of those people. So
Thank you.
No problem, brother. No problem. So, for those of you who don't know, Ken is a great dude. A great life story. You know what I mean? If you get the chance to hear it, you should. CEO of Crystal Glass right now. I'll let you do the talking for this one. Just give us a little bit of background about who Ken Franczek is.
So you want to know where I am today, where I was, a little bit of both?
Just a little bit of both, like a little snippet, so people can understand,
Yeah, I got you.
who this gentleman they're seeing right now is.
Okay, great. Well, right now I'm the general manager of Crystal Glass Canada, and then I have a series of other business partnerships I'm involved in. I'm involved in an advertising marketing company. I'm involved in a sports management, athlete sports management company. I've got a number of different holdings companies, so I'm into that kind of thing. My story is in my youth, I was homeless in Toronto and lived on the street from age 16 till 19. So kind of the story that I discuss. I have a coaching business, of course, as well, and a public speaking organization. And with that, I do a lot of talk about. I call it from the outhouse to the penthouse, and I tell that story.
It's a great story, man. And I'm I feel like I'm blessed to have had a chance to hear that story firsthand from you before you were being overly vocal about it publicly. And it was one of the things that kind of motivated me to realize that it doesn't matter where you are in life, if you have the right focus and direction and help from people, you can go somewhere better than where you're currently at, right?
1,000%, yes.
100%, brother. I love that. One thing that annoys me personally is I find people talking about this whole I don't want to work for anyone business, because I find entrepreneurship is overhyped right now. You know what I mean? And it's become something that's more like a cool fad to say when I'm an entrepreneur, and it's like, oh, I'm this cool thing. But really, and people are talking about I don't want to work for people. I don't want to build someone else's dream. And personally, I don't like that kind of repetitive jargon, because I think people hear one or two prolific entrepreneurs saying a version of that, and then they adopt it as their own philosophy. And personally, I think if you're not serving the greater community or giving people value, helping people build their dreams, then really, what are you doing?
Well, it's all part of it. If you, in order to build your dream, oftentimes you have to tag along. A mentor of mine said to me a number of years ago, the importance of giving back. And his comment was, I asked this fellow who's extremely successful, what's your secret? And his core secret was, I give back. I give back to the community. I give back to any place I can, but I do it from my heart. And because I do it from my heart, it tends to come back tenfold.
Right.
I didn't really fully understand what he meant by that. I mean, I understood the premise of it. I guess I didn't really believe it.
Right.
And then I started doing it, but I was doing it from my heart. I had a genuine interest in youth at risk for obvious reasons. So I started doing that. And interestingly, just as he predicted, it started to happen for me. So then you take that and turn it to this whole entrepreneur versus working for someone else.
Right, corporate structure.
I come from the corporate structure. Today, I consider myself an entrepreneur. However, my core is still developed and built around a corporate environment.
Right.
I started at the bottom at a large organization. I worked very hard. I got lucky, which is, never kid yourself. It's a combination of luck and hard work that will create success. But everything came together around that core business model and working in a corporate environment. That facilitated the opportunity for me to branch out.
Right.
Without that, I'd have nothing. I'd still be just working a regular job. I'm entrepreneurial by nature, but I never had the means to do it.
Right.
You have to get your head wrapped around. It's great to have dreams. It's great to have ambition and strength and work ethic and all of those things. But I'm not going to lie to you, man. It's going to take a couple of dollars to get you started.
Of course.
And if you don't get that from somewhere, and you think you're going to come out of the gate as an entrepreneur and just land on the top, it just won't happen. It's a lot less risky for a guy like me who can ride along behind a business model that will pay me on a weekly basis and then offer me bonuses based on my influence and my success, which is what that company Crystal Glass did for me. And then I take the funds from that and the things that I learned from that,
Right.
and I begin to put those into an entrepreneurial endeavor. And then that's been my success.
Right. And I'm glad you kind of expanded on that and talked about bringing corporate structure into your entrepreneurial endeavor, because I think that's what most people ultimately miss, is that being entrepreneurial isn't avoiding any sort of corporate structure. It's actually being able to be, in my opinion, competent enough to manage the corporate structure, and you're at the top of it. Because I find most people are stuck working in a corporate structure. They don't like it because they're not managing their environment. You know what I mean? And they end up, being slaves, quote unquote, to somebody else. But really, I mean, what I've learned so far now in my short entrepreneurial journey, is you have to be good at everything at the beginning, because if you jump out by yourself, you got to do everything. But as you get deeper into it, you need to now get people who are better at those things, people who are trained and have university degrees in certain things. I cannot do accounting.
Right.
I'm not that good at accounting. I could fuck with the numbers and come up with great outcomes and project things. But when you start talking about being specific and accurate and dotting the i's, so to speak, and crossing, I don't have that knowledge. But there are plenty of accounting specialists who have that. And unless I work with somebody like that, you know what I mean, I'm never going to be able to accurately track my income and spending, as well as do my taxes appropriately at the end of the year.
Well, don't kid yourself. It's not just in finance. Part of my public speaking background, I incorporate the value or teach the value of understanding your strengths, but also more important than understanding your strengths, because your strengths are natural, they'll come out. It's identifying and accepting your weaknesses, and then going out and finding people who can come in behind you to support you, because it's not just in finance. Documents, try to write for me, I have this vision of what I want to do all the time, and my vision is usually way up here.
Yep.
But to go from here to here, there's a whole series of processes that are required. Well, I'm not a process guy.
Right.
I'm a visionary, and I'm
Big
a worker.
Guy.
Yeah, I see this. I need people around me who will say, Ken, well, you know what? We have to submit this, and it's a 12-page document, and it's going to. I am not going to sit down and write a 12-page document.
No.
If I don't have someone around me who's got those skills, and I'm not just making this up, this has happened. It happens to me still today.
Right.
Fortunately, I have a corporate counsel, lawyer on our team, controllers. I have marketing people. My vision is shared with everyone, but I find the best of the best to come in behind me and support it. And as a group, we rise. But back to being an entrepreneur and knowing it all out of the gate. You can't possibly know it all out of the gate. No. I don't care who you are.
100%, yeah.
If you can be paid by someone and chase their dream with them and be compensated while you're learning, it's a paid education.
Right.
So job is not a bad word, as long as that's not your only answer.
Yes, I like that.
You can have a job and you can earn an income and you can quote unquote work for the man. But while you're doing that, you had better have a very clear vision. Number one, of where your opportunities lie within that organization that you're with,
right,
and be chasing those opportunities. But more importantly, taking in the education so that you're learning while you're being paid, you're learning, and then go and apply those to whatever business interests, is your passion.
Yeah, definitely. And that's profound right there, because now what it starts to articulate is that, learning you know. And I find that a lot of people stop learning once they leave like a formal learning environment, you know, per se. Like after high school, people go take a trade school type of engagement or university. But after university, after trade school, I just noticed like most of us stop learning.
Never stop
You know what
learning.
I mean?
If you're this, everyone's heard this before. If you're the smartest person in the room,
Yeah.
you're in the wrong room.
That's true.
So
Yeah,
if you've learned everything you can learn and everyone around you knows less than you do, you better go find another room.
Right.
And you better keep learning, and you better, again, back to surrounding yourself with good people.
Yeah.
So you learn from them.
Yeah. No, that's true. And it's there's a shortage
That's why I hang out with you, by the way. I'm always learning, you know.
Oh yeah. Learning the wrong things. From
No,
me.
no, not at all. Not at all.
No. I like it, but that's exactly part of the reason, because I find life is more than just you know, work, you know. So I find I like hanging out with around the people where I have certain friends who aren't work friends, where they're just social friends, and I can learn certain social characteristics, when you call it, from them, you know. To go, I moved around a lot growing up, you know. I moved around. I was born and raised in
I know
Zimbabwe.
your story.
Yeah. You know, and moved around that country. Then, you know, lived in Botswana for a while. Then ended up in the States for university in Canada. So it's like, in order to socialize effectively, I've had to be able to make great friends within the community I was living in, and then learn how to socialize within that particular society. You know, because when you move to a different country, you know, it's a completely different environment, and you know, the culture and the culture shock that you experience is profound. And I've noticed those lessons I learned in there translate directly into the business world. You know.
Number one thing that I teach when I sit with a client one-on-one, the very first thing I teach most clients, because it's where most people are weak. They have a great idea, they have a terrific work ethic, they have all of this knowledge related to their passion.
Right.
If you can't network, stop.
Right.
Because everything that we do, even in this day and age of technology, text messages, social media, where you don't have to intercommunicate with others, I don't care how good you think you are at that. If you can't walk into a room comfortably and meet people, you're done.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense, man. And because I've realized that a real life connection is profoundly different from a virtual online connection.
You're not going to learn anything from someone just by texting back and forth with
Right.
them. You have to sit down, get to know somebody. It's core networking, right?
Right.
And one of the keys to my success, and I didn't even understand it while it was happening, I was one of the lucky ones in that strengths and weaknesses. One of my strengths was somehow this inherent ability to be able to communicate with people and network. I just was one of the lucky ones. But what I'm getting at is most of the success that I have now is based on, I am at events 2-3 nights a week. I still am today. I've been doing it for 2 decades.
Yeah.
But when I walk into a room, I meet other business leaders. I meet like-minded people. I meet people who have strengths that I don't have. I'm always developing new relationships.
Have to,
always.
Have to,
And that's how you learn and grow.
Yeah.
You know, you are the sum of the 7 people you most closely associate with. So you want to get out there and meet those 7.
Right.
Always. And always
seven,
be
seven
always
great
be building
people.
it. Amen.
I love that, man. So since we just talked about social media and digital, you know, virtual interactions, what's your take on that? Like, as the CEO of a company, you know, having grown up at a time when technology wasn't what it is today, you know, how have you seen it change, and how do you think it applies to, say, like, you know, somebody in your position? Do you need to be social media savvy, or how does that, like, what's your take on that?
Well, if you're not, again, now just based on this snapshot of time, if you're not somewhat savvy, again, give up, because number one, it's by far the most effective way to communicate your message efficiently.
Right.
So that's number one. But number two, more importantly than just supplying information and growing business built on social media, it's about knowing how to interact on social media.
Right.
Because so many people don't understand the power of putting the wrong thing on social media, or equally as important, not monitoring it properly. I'll give you a great example. Only this week, we have about 65,000 followers on the Crystal Glass Facebook page. I post something about Crystal Glass and the history. Had I not been watching, and it was on a public page with 3,000 or 4,000 followers as well, this thing I put up, somebody put on there about a terrible experience they had with our company.
Right.
And how they would never come back. Now, if I walked away mentally from that social media posting and never went back to it, that would have lingered, and it probably would have got steam, because the next guy who sees, oh, I'm going to tell them what I think too.
Right.
within minutes of that being posted, personally, not a representative of our company,
Yeah.
I went on and apologized that that person had a bad experience and offered, what can I do to correct it? Please message me. And again, don't message me publicly. It's about understanding
Right.
what
Talk
you're
to me.
using.
Yeah.
Please send it to me privately and we'll work on this together. And I want to make sure, well, within minutes of that, all the positive feedback started popping in behind
Right.
it. Had I left that, I already know what the outcome would have been. So back to your question being, how important is it? It's important to use it. It's important to understand it. And it's very important to learn how to monitor and manage it.
Right. Yeah. Monitoring and management is big, man. And I think from a CRM perspective, customer relations management, for those of you who don't know acronyms. Yes. From a CRM perspective, it's an important tool to be able to manage those concerns immediately from people who may not have, filled out that interaction form or come to the manager when they had this experience X amount of years ago, but they're still carrying around that lingering energy. So I'm glad you touched on that.
Well, they're harboring it. The irony in that post was once we interacted, he finally said publicly, this problem was to do with a vehicle. He said, well, I've actually sold that vehicle over 10 years ago. He said, it's water under the bridge.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't just leave it at that. It's about understanding. I went back and said, just the same.
Yeah.
Really sorry about the negative experience you had. If there's ever anything I can do to reinstill the faith in our organization, please contact me personally. It's those little things that if you don't manage them properly can explode, and we've all seen it happen.
Yeah, they turn
negative
to trash
viral
really quickly. Yeah.
So, anyways, just
and negative viral is another thing, man. And speaking of negative viral, like there was a post circulating about a PM this year.
Oh
and
my.
it's personally, I think it's tricky managing things like that.
Absolutely.
And I hope it takes a negative, a positive light. I mean, not negative. And I hope it gets quelled quickly. But I mean, what's your take from that? Being somebody who's in a position of power and has to deal with those types of things. Like, how would you have handled that nonsense?
Yeah, honestly, that's one thing that I think any relatively public, relatively successful business leader worries about. And if you're in the public eye, you are always, you go to bed at night thinking, oh boy, I hope nothing happens. What have I done in my last 50 some, or in the last 50 some years of my life that can be brought back up? Because I don't care who you are, no one's perfect. I will say this publicly, I am not a big fan of our current prime minister.
Right.
That's my own political view. However, I feel terrible for the guy as a person, number one. And number two, my own personal take on that is I really don't believe the man is a racist. I think he made a mistake a long time ago. But I think the challenge is how he's managing this now.
Right.
And a lot, I know I don't think the same way I thought when I was 21.
Exactly.
I'm 53 now, and I'll be honest, I'd be embarrassed with some of the things I might have thought being uneducated back at that time. Everyone deserves the opportunity to ask for forgiveness and to change. And I absolutely believe he did. I have other challenges with that party that don't relate. But again, I don't know how they fix that. I really don't, because
it's a tricky fix, man.
The internet is a place that is vile and angry. And it's a platform for people to say things that are completely inappropriate. And it's a shame to see that part of our culture come out. But I don't know how you manage that. You're asking me. I'm glad I'm not him. That's all I know, because I wouldn't want to be that guy right now.
Well, you know what, man? The reason I asked you was because I love your opinion, and you're 100% right, man, because I saw it myself, and I thought exactly what you thought, that I look back when I was younger in my 20s, and I did a lot of dumb shit, man. And it's like,
you and me both.
Yeah, and what it did highlight for me, though, was how important it is to understand what your ultimate vision for yourself is, and start preparing for that ahead of time.
Because it can happen.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Exactly. And it's like, think about like being a 20-year-old. Most 20-year-olds today are making these life-changing, life-altering decisions without having forecasted what their life might look like, in the future. To say, in my opinion, right now, to be honest with you, I don't think anyone who's 20, between 19 and 27, 28, should be seriously considering getting married or trying to have children right away, or making any of those big, getting rooted right now life decisions, especially living in North America, because the the landscape has changed, man.
And it changes so
So
fast
quickly.
now. It's not like it was when I was 20, 30
Yeah,
years ago.
you know.
Everything is on hyper speed and
Yep,
changing
yep.
so quickly. I totally agree with you,
Uber
actually.
quickly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think people don't take the time to and you know, if you see something like this happening to the Prime Minister of Canada for something long time ago when we weren't digitally integrated, imagine what it looks like for the guys who are going to be running for Parliament office in 10, 20 years based on how
Absolutely.
social media is today, you know, and some of the crap you're seeing out here, man, some people are not going to make it, you know what I mean? And it's shitty to see, you know, and you know, what's more important to kind of take from this, I think, is be who you are, but be cognizant of what's good and what's bad, and do the right thing.
Well, you know what? I don't think that's just about social media. I think that's about life in
But life,
general.
yeah, true, well said, man.
Because honestly, I'll tell you another irony in all of this nonsense with Justin Trudeau right now is I am, if I had to be asked, right-leaning politically.
Right.
And I'm that way because I'm a business leader. I understand the value of fiscal responsibility. I also understand the value of being able to employ people and that you can't do that unless you have a successful business structure.
Right.
So I'm all about that side of call it right-leaning political thinking. But what's ironic is I, from time to time, will not think it out well enough and put something about that right-leaning thought process I have, and I get attacked. And I've been attacked recently. And we were talking about this before we did this.
We did, yeah,
and
we did.
And I said, you know, here's the irony. Just because I'm right thinking does not make me all of the other things that are from the left side that they label you. And it's so unfair because you get the misogynist, the racist, all of that.
Yep.
And anyone who knows me personally, I mean, we're not
Quite
just
the opposite,
friends.
man.
We're like brothers.
Oh,
you
yeah,
and I.
yeah, we go way back, man.
And I have a lot of friends who are from every ethnic background, including white male.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I really don't care. So it's unfair to be labeled like that.
Yeah.
But my challenge is that that's what social media has created. It's a place for people to be angry and to attack.
Right.
So what you're saying, and then just to wrap this back to what you were talking about, is I feel for being 21 to 25-year-old because you're out there just living your life right now. And in fairness, you're still growing, you're still learning. I guarantee you won't be the same person when you're 50 as you are today. No matter 100%. What you think right now, you will find out when you get to that end of to that point in your journey that you're not the same person.
100%. God
help you if you're throwing negativity out today that you didn't want out there when you could 50. Only look forward.
Right, when you're a dad and a granddad, you know.
When your grandchildren are Googling
they can watch what you were doing.
And they see who you are as a person. Be aware of that as a young person right now.
And that's a great point, man. A lot of people aren't understanding that you don't need to be famous to be like found on Google right now.
Absolutely
like
not.
You could Google somebody and Instagram content comes up.
Yeah.
Facebook content comes up, and that stuff doesn't go away, man.
It'll be there. We believe it'll be there forever.
Forever, you know. That's what it is. That's what they do. They collect information. You know what I mean? And it's I find what's really lacking is mentorship, direction.
I agree.
You know, and that's the one thing I liked about you was when we did work together and you were my manager during my fighting career. It wasn't just a management relationship. It was like an actual progressive relationship where I got a lot of mentoring and you know, I love that, man. You know, and you're still doing your mentoring. So like, tell us a bit about that, man. How's that going, and where can people find that to get a bit of the Camp Franczek experience?
So I'll start with this. You directly, making reference to you directly. For those who might be watching Mukai today and what he's accomplished and what he's working on now, and if you were able to see where we were at 15 years ago.
10 years ago, 2009.
This kid he's not the same guy.
Yeah, thank you, man.
You've grown so much.
Thank you.
And I'm proud to be one small part of helping you to become the person you're becoming.
Yeah.
I probably get the most fulfillment personally out of coaching than I do from anything else that I do. And I'm not blowing smoke. I'm being totally honest. Something about molding and watching and sharing and understanding and growing with someone who's interested in doing all of those things for themselves. So super exciting. So I have a couple of ways that I incorporate that into my business group. and I have a coaching business. So for today, I offer one-on-one coaching. It's done in 1 hour segments. Typically, we can't really accomplish much unless we do at least 4 of those segments.
Right.
And it's not really just the hour that I spend with you. I send out a long questionnaire where I ask for a lot of very specific and difficult information for you to answer, where you have to dig deep into yourself. And then I spend a good hour or 2 hours doing the research on who you are, what your business interest is, what I believe the take will be on that, what the success ratio might be, strategies to be able to help you both from a business perspective and a personal perspective based on what I have received from you.
Right.
So I spend really, it's not an hour, I spend about 2 or 3 hours per session for each person.
Right.
So I have that. I also do public speaking. I'm asked to do, I'm very blessed actually to be asked to do speaking engagements, oftentimes developed around youth at risk, women and children in crisis, things that are really near and dear to me because of my own personal upbringing. But I also am asked from time to time to do motivational and or business coaching discussions, talks. And I have about 5 different paths that I have sort of set up and have prepared, which I'll slowly, I slightly modify for each group, but there's sort of 5 key areas. So if somebody wants me to come in and speak to a sales team about, about sales, steps to sales, networking and that type of thing, I can go that direction, or we can talk about, sort of that outhouse to the penthouse thing. There's a whole
outhouse to the penthouse.
Yeah,
I love it, man.
I have a friend who's suggesting, and business partner who's suggesting that we maybe write a book. And I said it before, I'm not a guy who's going to sit and document, but we're looking at avenues truly to maybe bring in a writer and
that'd be
to
awesome,
sit with them
man.
and write a book. It's almost that time. So that to me is overwhelming, but really exciting.
Do it, man. I'd read that book. I would read that book for sure. 100%. I'll buy that.
Thank you.
But I wouldn't buy it on Audible. That shit.
Actually, I love Audible,
man.
I'll give you one and I'll even sign
it.
It won't
autograph.
It'll still be worth $10.
Hey,
or whatever.
Listen, I'll have it, man. I'll put it on my shelf and read it like periodically. I'll read it once fully, but after that, I don't know, man. I got access to the source, right?
just come. We'll have a coffee.
Yes, I love it, man.
You're always.
But Kenny, thanks a lot for coming on the show, man. It's always a blast. Always have great chats with you. If you want to get a hold of Ken, you can get on him Instagram, Ken Franczek. Facebook, very accessible gentleman. You know what I mean? Always willing to talk. Always has great advice.
Follow me on Twitter, please.
Yeah, follow Ken on Twitter, ASAP, and Instagram. Follow me on Instagram too at Mukai Maromo. But we'll check you guys next time.
It was awesome. Thanks,
Oh, dude.